Hey guys, welcome back to Brass Lab. Today I'd like to tell you about my foray into competitive shooting over the last month as I introduce myself to the worlds of USPSA and IDPA. Now, how I got here. After many years of shooting, I've never really dived into the practical shooting space, particularly with pistols. I've always been more rifle oriented, but I've been trying to take more classes recently, and I ended up actually taking a class called Force on Force Airsoft Training at Centerfire Shooting Sports. And it was a lot of fun. You basically shoot at each other with airsoft guns, but you're trying to learn room clearing tactics, how to de-escalate a volatile situation, but knowing when to draw, when not to draw, etc. And when we're running these drills where you essentially try and shoot the other guy before they can shoot you with a bunch of barriers in the way, there was this older gentleman who was really good at shooting, and it kind of blew my mind that I was trying to get sneaky and kind of shoot at him between a couple barrels that I was hiding behind. The barrels had maybe a couple inches between them, and he managed to snipe me right between them. Oh, he got me. Damn, that was a good shot.
Was it between the barrels?
Yep.
Yeah.
That was a good shot.
Well, you should meet between the barrels.
And I was just blown away by that. And at the end of the class, he actually invited everybody in the class to go shoot at the IDPA competition at Mill Creek Rifle Club that following weekend. So I actually went and made the drive out, participated on a whim, did not necessarily have the best gear, I just used what I had. So I used my Gen 5 Glock 17 MOS. Now at the time it was actually topped with a Trijicon RMR and my X300 from Surefire. Because I was just using the gear that I had, I used an inside the waistband holster from A&R Designs, and we'll go into why that was a bad idea or suboptimal, particularly in my situation, in a few minutes. But first let me go over the differences between IDPA and USPSA for those of you who may not be familiar. IDPA stands for International Defensive Pistol Association and focuses more on concealed carry, tactical priority, and accuracy. USPSA stands for United States Practical Shooting Association and emphasizes more speed, run and gun, movement, etc. They both prioritize speed and accuracy, but to varying degrees. So IDPA, you have what's called tactical priority, in which you're essentially having to do it almost like you would be a soldier or an officer clearing a room, in which the first target that is presented as you slice the pie is the one you have to engage. Then you engage the next one, then the next one. You can't choose whatever order you want. If you are presented all these targets at the same time, like say at a stage start, your tactical priority is to shoot closest to farthest. In USPSA, it's just shoot whichever one you want. You gotta go fast though. Now, of course, there will still be certain specifications in certain stages of USPSA where it's like, hey, you have to engage this target before you can move on. There's unlimited stages in both, in which you can use more rounds than required to do makeup shots. There are some stages that require an exact number of shots that you are allowed per target, and there are no makeup shots. Once again, I don't want to go too deep in the weeds on the differences between the two organizations for the sake of this video, because I'm trying to get good at both and I want to give you my experiences. So my first experience, my first match ever, was IDPA in February of 2026. And I really wanted to just dip my feet. I was nervous as hell. And I kind of decided with myself, you know what? I've not done a match before. I don't really feel comfortable yet. I want to focus on accuracy, go slow and at my own pace, and build up from there in the future. I especially felt uncomfortable because I was using an inside the waistband holster. And as you might be able to tell, I'm a bit of a big chungus, all right? I got me some love handles, and it makes for a very precarious situation when you are constantly unholstering and reholstering a gun with love handles. With an inside the waistband holster, because I literally have to lift up a love handle to shove that gun back in there, and I actually nearly got DQ'd one time because of that situation.
Loading back ready. I'm not going to DQ you. I'll say I couldn't tell for sure because of the angle, but you've got that hand back there by the muzzle, and I know you're fighting with the trousers and the holster. But be really careful about it because most guys might have DQ'd you on that, and it was close.
Yes, sir. I was not going to repeat that. I immediately went and bought an outside the waistband holster that was still suitable for IDPA. I had an outside the waistband holster for a duty belt, but it just wasn't suitable for IDPA. So that's the number one thing I learned. If you're a big chungus like me, don't mess around with an inside the waistband holster if you can avoid it. Try and get an outside the waistband holster ahead of time. And I will show you the difference that makes here.
Load and make ready.
But so that put me even more on edge and kind of re-emphasized to me like, okay, you know what? Let's focus on going slow and steady. The other thing is at the time I was running a Trijicon RMR, and I didn't really have any issues with the window size in that gun before, because when I was just casually going to the range, I just bring my gun up at my own pace, aim down the sight, and once I acquire the dot, then I shoot. As long as I manage the recoil, I'm keeping that dot in the window just fine. So the small window never really bothered me. But a shooting sport like this, where you're constantly put into awkward positions, you're also trying to index as fast as possible as you draw, being on the clock really magnifies every error in your mechanics, and a small window on a red dot sight magnifies that even more. So you'll constantly notice me in this first match at IDPA where I'm losing the dot or just not acquiring the dot from my draw because I poorly indexed it. And it cost me a lot of time trying to find that dot. I made great hits. I was the second most accurate person at this first match. But part of would I have gotten a better score had I gone faster and had a couple more points down from, not having perfect accuracy? I probably would have been better off. But from a baseline, I'm okay with that for my first match, just kind of dipping my feet. And I want to make something clear. When I say I was going slow and steady, when I'm pulling the trigger fast. And that's kind of important because you don't want to set yourself up for bad mechanics in the future by trying to really go slow on the trigger, slow and steady, and just, creep through it. That is bad form. It's not going to help you when you actually try to speed up. You want to be able to pull that trigger fast as soon as your dot's on the target where you want it to be. So I did make sure I was doing that in my first match, and it worked out great. My hands I fit really well with the Glock 17 Gen 5, particularly with the largest backstrap out of the box. And it worked great for me. So I knew that, hey, I've got a baseline now. Now, despite me going at a snail's pace, because my accuracy was so good, I actually finished 28th out of 39 shooters. Overall, that's below the halfway point, but for my first time shooting, I wasn't too dissatisfied. I was actually pretty happy with that. To the point that I immediately signed up for the USPSA match that was 2 weeks following. Now, before I was going to attend the USPSA match, I had to ditch that dang Trijicon RMR and put on my Trijicon SRO. So I attended the USPSA match now with my Trijicon SRO attached, and let me tell you, that made the world a difference. And guess what? Using an outside the waistband holster, even if it was a Safariland with a thumb release, which thumb release, not ideal for USPSA, but my draw times aren't great yet anyway, so I'm not gonna chalk it up like, oh, that's the biggest deal in the world. I just felt a lot more confident because I'm like, well, when I put this gun away, I'm not gonna be DQing by, lifting up my love handle wrong. So that gave me a world of confidence on its own. And I just knew, hey, I had good accuracy last time. It's time to pick up the speed. It's time to move, pick up the speed. I still didn't feel confident enough yet to try shooting on the move, but you could already see how much better I'm shooting now. Now I focus on a lot of things. I was doing lots of dry fire. I follow Ben Steger and Joel Park, watch their videos borderline religiously, hours a day, pretty much. I tried dry firing about 20 to 30 minutes every single day. And that's helped a lot. It's not the only thing, of course. And there's still a lot of things I would want to improve from this performance, but for a second outing, I think I did pretty damn well. I had a lot of fun, talked to some great people, We had 7 stages on my very first match, and they were all classifiers. It was a classifier day. So unfortunately, I'm not a full member yet of USPSA, so the classifiers didn't mean anything for me. I would have classified as C class, but I had a couple of runs that were B class performances. I'm pretty satisfied with that, and I think that if I clean up my mistakes, I'm already a B class level of shooter if I can be more consistent. And consistency is the key. So you could say based on consistency, I am a C class, and that's totally valid. But I know that a B class shooter is within me already. And I can see certain things where it's like, man, if I just improve some of these things, some of my mistakes, I could actually be an A class shooter conceivably. I can't even conceive of anything past that, to be clear. So like my dream at this point is like, hey, can I work my way up to being A class? That's all I really want, you know, over the next 3 years. But I'll tell you what, the biggest thing I noticed is there's a lot more people involved at my local matches for USPSA than IDPA, and it's a bit of a double-edged sword. It makes it a little harder to get to know people, but it also shows you some really high-end shooters. The skill ceiling does seem to be higher in USPSA than IDPA. I find that good and bad as a beginner. Like, hey, I can work my way up the ranks in IDPA faster, theoretically, particularly with my skill set because I am very accurate. But man, USPSA, whew, the skill ceiling is insane there. Seeing what people can do, like, and like I'll see my time and think I did really well, and then I'll see somebody did it in half the time, and I'm like, how is that even possible? It blows my mind. And what I really want to learn now is to improve economy of motion, shooting on the move, but even just the like little motions with how you work your body and your body mechanics. I want to learn these things so that I can maximize the efficiency of movement, because that's definitely a huge aspect that I'm gonna have to learn. I'm not an athlete, I'm not athletic, so that's gonna be a big hurdle for me, but I think it's something that's a fun challenge to pursue. And I don't have to be the greatest shooter in the world, I just have to be better than I was yesterday. That's kind of my mindset that I'm taking for this. So I ended up finishing, ooh, this is embarrassing. I ended up finishing 69th out of 88. That's pretty rough, but once again, like, I know I shot better, like more competitively that day than I did at the IDPA match. I think that really does speak more to like the competition at USPSA. You could definitely tell the IDPA crowd, for now at least, skews older. There were a lot of young people on my first match because since they chartered that IDPA chapter, I believe that was actually the biggest orientation that they have had, according to their announcements at the event. So that's a good sign as far as for my local chapter to have more young shooters in it. But for the time being, it definitely skews on the older side. USPSA generally definitely skews younger. Average shooters still probably like 40, and you definitely have people who are much older, but you have people who are much younger. And I know that nationally you'll have people who are not even adults yet who are amazing shooters in USPSA and IDPA for that matter. The other thing I want to mention about USPSA versus IDPA in a very broad context is capacity. So I'm shooting in the carry optics division in both competitions, and in IDPA that means your magazine capacity is 10 rounds, although you get 10 plus 1 on your first magazine. So you get to load 11 rounds, and then when you load and make ready, rack the slide, 10 rounds still in the magazine, 1 in the tube. For USPSA, you can have as much capacity as you can fit in the carry optics division as long as the magazines are 140 on 141 millimeters. I'll put the exact measurement on screen. I don't really give a shit. I just know that like, oh, so you can use +5 base plates on Glock mags. Okay, I didn't know that going in. For whatever reason, I was just stupid and thought, oh yeah, we'll have a magazine restriction also in USPSA for carry optics, because like the high rounds are for like limited and open, right? It's like, nope. Surprisingly, that only bit me in the ass for one stage. So I'm not too uppity about that. I could have gotten through that last stage without a reload had I had the extended magazines, which literally the moment I got home, I'm ordering base plates. I actually ordered 2 Taran Tactical magazines with the base plates installed already. I feel like those were a better value on paper because they were $60 for the base plate and the magazine together. But I also went ahead and bought 3 Henning magazine extensions, which are the same capacity when installed. Those are about 50 bucks each, and I want to compare those. And maybe eventually I'll also get some Henning magazine extensions with the MBX follower that allows you to have 24 rounds in a magazine, but will not lock the slide on the last round. That shouldn't actually matter in USPSA because when you get to higher level shooting, they tell you you should never be locking your slide anyways. You should always be doing tactical reloads before you're empty. And I can see how that's the case in USPSA. That's another thing to really bitch about between USPSA and IDPA. I really like IDPA's tactical priority. I actually really enjoy that aspect because I think tactical priority should be emphasized. I think that is something worth learning and ingraining in yourself when possible. But not only do you only have 10 rounds in a magazine for IDPA, you are not allowed to drop a magazine with ammo still in it. Otherwise, it is a 5-second penalty unless you pick it up. That's rough. That is very rough. Apparently, you're not allowed to have a dump pouch either. So you can't just drop a magazine into a dump pouch. You gotta like stuff it in a pocket if you want to do tactical reloads. And I'm just like, man, that is kind of stupid. I mean, don't get me wrong, it's kind of fun when there's certain stages where you can actually kind of think like, oh, well, as long as I throw 1 extra round at this string of targets, then I'll have 1 in the chamber and I can drop an empty magazine, do a reload that way. And that's a lot of fun. I actually did that on a stage in the practice match I'll talk about in a minute. But still, like, I understand why that drives people insane. I don't like that aspect. Because like, oh, you know, oh, the bad guy might pick up my magazine with a bullet in it and then get me. It's like, dude, if you're fucking like getting murked by a dude who picked up your magazine with ammo left in it, like, man, what are you even doing? That seems like a ridiculous premise, in my opinion. I like that IDPA is more defensive focused, and its history goes into why that is. That USPSA kind of lost the plot a little bit because it got too gamified. And I kind of agree that in a vacuum, USPSA on its own is overly gamified if it was the only option out there. IDPA is weird because like they have to do so many things differently to distinguish themselves. And I like some of the things they do, like tactical priority, but I don't like how strict the magazine restriction is. I understand capacity limitation. I actually totally get that. But the 10+1 thing partly comes from like wanting to make 1911s as competitive as possible. I think they should just have more divisions. Frankly, you could probably reduce the number of divisions for non-optics. They need to increase the number of optics divisions since from what I understand, about 60%, and it's growing, of IDPA shooters shoot and carry optics. 1 division. You gotta start breaking that up because you can't have P365s with a hollow sun in the same division as a compensated 2011, because that's exactly what it is right now, and that's crazy. I'm kind of jumbling up some of my complaints here, and I don't want to like be overly negative here because I'm really enjoying both. I really enjoy the differences of both. It works different parts of your brain, and I really enjoy that. I'm a very cerebral person, so I'm able to keep track of the different penalties and procedures in IDPA better than maybe some people might be able to under stress and trying to go fast. Because there's so many rules with tactical priority, sometimes there's ambiguities, and that can create real arguments. And actually, in my first IDPA match, I kind of intentionally maybe provoked a bit of an argument because I am constantly trying to game the system and figure out the best strategy to be more efficient. And there was this disappearing target where you pressed on a plate with your foot and a target would appear and then disappear very quickly. And technically, you're supposed to slice the pie and take out these 3 targets first, you know, in order left to right as you slice the pie. But if you step on that plate, and there's nothing specifying in the rules when you can step on that plate, the moment you step on that plate, the disappearing target has no set priority, and you can shoot that first, even though you're exposing yourself to the 3 that are already out there. And I clarified that. I wanted to make sure that, you know, I clarified that with the SOs who were there. Basically, yeah, it doesn't say it explicitly in the rules, so you can do it. Created a bit of a controversy, but you know what? It's not like I was competitive enough for it to matter. But that does kind of show you how it can get a little hazy when you have all these tactical priority rules.
Right, because it disappears and appears and we don't know when they activate.
Does anybody
You don't
need
have
a
to
water?
slice the pipe
I will
first?
take one, sir. Thank you.
On a stage,
Thanks so much.
you may know the rules better than I do. On a stage that has an activated disappearing target, it does not have a priority.
Right, but those other guys, I've never seen a situation where you could come out here and not and expose yourself to these targets and shoot something else. I don't know. That's like
Well, when I read the rules, that's why I say if somebody knows them better.
James.
But
Want a water?
No. Just come on over.
What happened?
according to the rule book, as I understand it, and I could well be wrong, on a scenario where there is an activated disappearing target, it does not have a priority.
It becomes your first priority because it is going to disappear, and it's, if you don't engage it, then.
So you have to slice the pipe first and then do disappearing. You can
Yeah, I'm not
disappear
really
now.
sure about. I mean, because
Let's go with my interpretation.
it's not activated yet. So
But
apparently
if you
have.
activated it on the way into the stage,
Well, if he did that, I mean, and he shot it, and then when it pops up is when it's priority.
so that's why an activated target that disappears
Becomes a
does
priority.
not have a priority. It doesn't have an assigned one. And so he activated the target on the way into the shooting position,
Right.
and it's going to disappear if he doesn't shoot it.
Exactly. So he has to shoot it then.
So there's no penalty, there's no priority.
Even though you've exposed yourself to the other targets.
That's correct.
Well, yeah. I mean, we had that discussion recently.
Now, 1 week after the USPSA match that I did, I took the practice match for IDPA, just because I wanted to keep my skills up. I wanted to keep improving before this upcoming weekend's IDPA match for the month of March. This match is like, you know, it's actually almost like like a long form orientation for new shooters, but most of the guys who are there are longtime IDPA shooters who just want to keep brushing up on the skills, you know, keep in practice for the upcoming match, all that kind of stuff. So I'd probably say about a third of the guys there were brand new shooters to IDPA, not new shooters, new competitors, as they say. Probably another third of them were guys who've competed elsewhere but wanted to compete here. And about half the guys who are there are like the long-time IDPA guys who are really into it and go to it every month and everything, and they just go to these practice matches to kind of brush up on their skills, get a little warmed up for the following weekend. So take the following with a little bit of grain of salt, but somehow I managed to come in first place for the match. Practice match, asterisk, but I managed to finish first. And I really wanted to push my economy of motion in this match by being willing to shoot on the move, really thinking about planning my reloads, and shooting doubles as fast as I can within reason. It ended up working out great. Look, I had points down. I had way more points down than I did in my first IDPA match, but I was so much faster that it kind of didn't matter. And I can still see room for improvement, like a lot of improvement, both saving time and also how I can work on using dry fire to work on my mechanics and improve my accuracy with those fast-paced doubles. But man, I can see myself turning into a bit of a machine. And I know, like, look, if you're a super high-level shooter, you're gonna watch this and be like, what's he talking about? Like, come on, man. Like, I get it. I am not trying to claim I'm a better shooter than I am yet, all right? But you look side by side, the development in 3 weeks. It's been so much fun getting better at this. And I know that eventually, it's kind of like the Dunning-Kruger effect, and I'm trying to avoid the Dunning-Kruger effect, like, yeah, I'm a way better shooter than you are. It's like, dude, I'm not letting it go to my head. I understand I am still very much a novice at this. But it's so much fun when you're in these early phases and you can see your improvements so radically, because I know eventually I'm going to get, I don't want to say plateauing, but the improvements are going to become much more marginal. So right now my improvements are like this, and eventually they're going to be like this, you know. I mean, I'm learning to game the system. Like, hey, the rules say your back has to be against the chair and you have to sit in the chair to start the stage. And everybody else just kind of assumes like, oh, well, I stand up, I stand there, engage these targets until those targets are all done, and then I move to the next area. And I'm just like, well, technically the rules just say I have to be behind the table. It doesn't say I have to stand there in the exact same spot. And I clarified it with them. I can move, right? I can move towards the next position while still shooting at this, right? It's like, yep.
Questions about any of that? Okay.
Oh,
Gary.
Oh, we got one.
I was talking to John earlier.
Yeah.
So when I start, after I get out of the chair, the rules for this stage is just to be behind that back of the table, right?
Did it say that? Did they tell you to do that?
I thought it said behind the table,
Okay.
but my interpretation of that is anywhere behind that edge,
Yep.
left and right. I don't care if he's over there by the wall, as long as he's back of the table.
So can I push the table up a lot closer? It doesn't say don't move the table.
But that's a great question.
It was a modified Mozambique for the first set of targets, where you had to do 2 body shots and a headshot per target. But technically, it doesn't ever specify which order that has to be in. You don't have to go like 2 body shots, 1 headshot on target 1, and then do the same on target 2, same on target 3. You can do it in whatever order you wanted. So I'm like, well, okay, for me, it makes sense, go left to right, headshot, headshot, headshot while standing, and then start to creep towards the next area while taking my body shots right to left. And then because of the 10+1, I knew I wanted to do my magazine change while transitioning to the next area. So I knew I wanted to throw 1 extra shot to see if I could do a makeup shot. And then I'll be able to drop my magazine because the magazine would be empty even though I'd have 1 still in the pipe. Math, baby, math. And then I can reload before I get to the next area and finish off the stage. That was a lot of fun. My accuracy was not as good as I would like it to have been. I was still definitely warming up for the day, quite frankly. I don't like to use that warming up excuse because ideally you should be able to shoot on demand. Ben Steger talks a lot about that. But I'm not quite to that level where I can shoot on demand. So what's funny is we did an El Presidente drill for one of the stages. Despite me forgetting to rack the slide when I loaded and made ready, I was still able to finish with the 2nd best time on the El Presidente drill. That's kind of wild to me. Kind of hilarious. I mean, 12 seconds is terrible, but it ended up being 2nd among the 16 shooters. So I finished 2nd on the El Presidente drill, 2nd on the bill drill. The bill drill, they've told us, like, don't worry about going fast, just try and go for the alphas or the zeros in IDPA. Now, as far as what I'd advise to, like, improve yourself when you get started in these kind of competitive shooting spaces is literally just watch videos from Ben Steger, Joel Park, search out videos on IDPA and USPSA, drills you can work on, but especially dry fire, dry fire, dry fire. You would not believe the world of difference that the dry fire can make. Being able to pull the trigger fast, but accurately. That's something that I was not ever particularly good at until I got into dry fire drills as dictated by Ben Steger. Real quick, I'll talk about belts. At my first USPSA match, I was just using my battle belt. It's a bison belt from Faro Concepts, and I do really like how it's set up for rifle classes and all sorts of stuff like that, because I got a couple rifle mag pouches, and I've got 4 pistol mag pouches, got a drop leg, sort of like holster mount that worked really well for me. The thing that sucked about this for my USPSA match was just the pistol mag pouches are definitely suboptimal. The type of pouch, and also like this particular set of pouches, I had it more towards the front, and man, those magazines would dig into me every time I would bend down. It actually didn't matter for any of the stages that we shot that day because we didn't have any sitting stages like that, but I was sitting in a chair some of the time during the day or just bending down to get my gear out of the bag. And I still have bruises, like big bruises from the Glock mags digging into me. And those weren't even the extended mags. Those are just like bone stock Glock 17 magazines. So that's a bit problematic. I still like this. I probably will do some modifications with the magazine pouch assortment. But you know what? I figured this competitive shooting thing is going to be a longer term investment for me. So I went ahead and got a second belt. This one is from Krydex, I believe. There's the inner belt. I got this like crappy knockoff holster hanger to try out. And I put a QLS fork adapter on there because of course, but this also has these neat little adjustable magazine holders that all the cool kids use. Now the cool kids generally have more expensive ones, but here's the thing. The belt and the 4 magazine holders from Krydex, that whole, and the inner belt by the way, all of that package, $50. And I think this holster hanger was like 25, 30, something like that, like way cheaper than what it's a knockoff of. I will say though, it's either out of spec or something because I cannot get the 3rd screw. It's not aligned with where the QLS fork is, but I'll be honest, I'm also using an off-brand QLS fork. But we don't need to worry about that. So I'm not gonna blame that even necessarily on one or the other because frankly, it's got the 2 that are the important ones and it's pretty firmly on there for the most part. It shouldn't be an issue early on. If I really get into this, I'll fucking invest in like a real Scorpion gear holster hanger. But I just wanted to have a dedicated IDPA, a dedicated USPSA belt to hang out with the cool kids. And I have so here's the outside the waistband holster I ended up choosing for IDPA. And I purchased it from 4 Bros Holsters because there's a lot more limited options when you're using a pistol light, particularly a Surefire X300. People generally don't run lights on competition guns, although in IDPA, because there's actually some stages that are night shoots, that might be changing in IDPA as far as like people competing with weapon lights. USPSA, basically nobody does it unless you're trying to add weight. I do it because like, hey man, this is my actual carry gun, all right? This is what I carry. It is a bone stock Glock 17. I am very hesitant to even upgrade the trigger at any point. I don't mind the trigger. I can see how it could be improved, but I like the idea that it goes off, it goes bang every time, you know, bone stock reliability. But I like this holster enough that I ordered a second one, and I'm going to use a QLS fork attachment on that one for my USPSA belt. That way it's a standard holster I use across both sports. Technically I could just keep removing the attachment here, the Tech Lock attachment, and put on the QLS fork. I did that once to try it out, it worked. But I mean, I don't want to have to keep removing it constantly and then stripping out the threads on the holster. So I'd rather just buy a second holster. They're not that expensive. I like the adjustable retention on it. It's not too shabby. It maybe isn't like the most competition suited holster, but I think if I just get more consistent with my draws, it should never really be an issue, is my hope. We'll see how that goes. I'll let you guys know in a future video how I'm doing and how I'm improving, if I'm improving at all. Crossing fingers there. But this really is just a video to kind of give you an idea where I'm at my first month. And hopefully this is just a part 1 of my competitive shooting journey. And I'm glad you guys are following along with me. And I want to thank you for watching. If you haven't already, please like and subscribe. Brass Lab is my little project, and I have been very bad about uploading to it. I'm gonna try and be better, but maybe the goal should be more life update in the world of shooting, if that makes sense. But if you guys could give a like and subscribe, it'd be much appreciated. I can't wait to get further on this journey with you guys. Thank you. Take care.